Hello and welcome to T3's Week in Tech. I'm Sam.
I'm Emily.
And this is what's been happening this week. First up, I'm going to take you to Nothing because I think they've had an interesting week.
They've had an interesting week.
There's a lot to get through this week. But first up, Nothing at the Android show, which we'll come back to, announced the pricing for its Nothing Phone 3. And it's higher than we're used to. Around about £800 here in the UK.
Hello, what?
£800.
I hadn't actually looked at the price.
I literally said this when we recorded a video about it yesterday.
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention.
Right, okay. It's lovely to know.
I usually just pay attention when you pause.
I see.
You're
okay.
very much a push button pony. It's fine.
Yeah, £800 in the UK. Said to be their first true flagship phone. I'm kind of excited. So I don't know. Are we the same age?
Yeah.
Roughly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember
I'm a
back
little
in the
younger
day?
than him.
Yeah, I was going to say.
For the record.
Do you remember back in the day when OnePlus, they started off as like a really cheap company. And they were making like 300 quid phones, and then they kind of progressed up. And now...
And that's exactly what Nothing is doing, because Carl pays from OnePlus.
I can see, I think the same thing's happening, but it's accelerated, because I swear the OnePlus Ascent took like 7-8 generations
well, they've done it once before, now he knows what's up.
It's like, this is, but look at how good the OnePlus phones are at premium level. Who's to say you can't do that again? I'm excited.
I think it's where he errs. I mean, for the Nothing Phone 3, I'm excited. I think that'll be great. They definitely do need a differentiation between the Nothing phones and the CMF by Nothing, because if you start making a budget phone company when your actual phones aren't really,
Yes, I know what you mean.
They're not budget, but they're not out of the ballpark of then that starts making not much sense.
Yep.
But yeah, so it does naturally make sense that they have started escalating their prices.
I find it an interesting price point, actually. It's not a £1,000 phone. I think that's the big takeaway. So if it does have pretty much flagship specs, like it's said to launch around July based on rumors and reports. So if that's the case, it'll be a Snapdragon 8 Elite is still the top dog. If it's got that processor for 800 quid, all right, it's late in the day. The new Snapdragons are always announced.
But the average person isn't going to notice that.
But the average person doesn't care. And an £800 phone against... which for at least 3 months has the same processor as...
Yeah,
if I
went Android, I'd go Nothing.
Yeah, I think it could be good. I must be honest, I really love Nothing phones as well. I've been lucky to use a few of them. Yeah. And they've got great UI and they always work fairly well. I think they're well designed, well engineered. Yeah. And it's not the only news coming from them as well. While we're on the subject of Nothing, they have launched a partnership with KEF, which is a British hi-fi audio brand. And I think it's really exciting. A lot of people are saying that it could mean a pair of over-ear headphones designed by the pair. The press release stated that there was a range of audio products which were set to arrive in the coming months. I don't necessarily think we'll see headphones because KEF already have luxury headphones and that's their bag and that's what they do. I think we might end up with something like a Bluetooth speaker. Because KEF do headphones and they do bookshelf speakers. Yeah. They've never, as far as I've seen, done a Bluetooth speaker. And I think if you're a luxury brand like that, it's quite difficult to break into that, what is really a kind of lower priced market, right? Bluetooth speaker market, by and large, is quite cheap and cheerful and does the job. It's the sort of thing that you find discounted in the Prime Day sale or whatever. Yeah. So it would offer KEF a way of introducing that with a brand that means it could operate at a lower price point without losing its brand allure. And it would give Nothing away of getting into that market with the backing of a company that means it's going to sound hot.
Yeah.
We don't know anything else at the minute about it, but I just think that's pretty cool. It's nice to see. I do wonder what it means for Nothing and Teenage Engineering.
I was going to say, I haven't heard from them in a while. Pairing.
The thing is, obviously, Teenage Engineer is first and foremost like an audio brand.
Sexy as hell.
That's the thing.
From a design perspective. I can't speak to
I
it.
wonder if their partnership has transformed more towards design than audio. And so maybe there's something going on behind the scenes. I really, really don't know. But it is interesting because that is potentially throws a curveball in that area. But yeah, just cool. Interesting to see. I've got another fantastic segue because while we're talking about Bluetooth speakers, actually, I want to talk to you about Bang & Olufsen's new Beosound A1. Oh my God. So, the second gen, the previous version of this, I have always wanted one. They are phenomenal. And they're relatively affordable. Like, we routinely would write deals about the old one that were about 150 quid.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is that bad for a speaker of this quality as well.
Yeah, I don't think so at all.
I'm going to have a quick look because, yeah, okay. So it is substantially more expensive in the third generation, £299 at retail, which is up £40, I think, from the retail price of the previous one.
Yeah.
I think it's something like 7 years since the original was produced. I was at an event with Bang & Olufsen recently, so I was getting the lowdown on this from them. I'm sure he said it was about 7 years. I'm reading the review here that tech editor Mike has posted. I'm going to see what he sums up here. Bass response. I remember this now. It says, the really surprising thing about the Beosound is just how much bass it can output for a speaker of this scale. Nothing else I've seen or heard can match it pound for pound.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. And I don't know if you know this as well. I said I was I went to Bang & Olufsen for the launch of the David Bowie Beosound A9 recently, which was really cool. Great evening. But I didn't realize how much they build like longevity and sustainability into their products. Like the idea is that everything you buy from this brand will be serviceable and maintainable for like a lifetime of use in theory.
Really?
So even like they had like record players and speakers from the 70s that had come back through and they'd reworked them, put a circuit board in so that it could work with modern tech. And now they're like, you can buy those again to work with your modern speaker setup. And I don't know.
That's the type of sustainability that I
that
like.
matters.
It's quiet. It's not greenwashing.
Yeah.
It's genuine. Like I have a lot of respect for that.
Yeah. And they sound ridiculously good. Like, I've never left a room more in awe and more sad that I'll never experience that. Because like the Beosound A9, which is the Bowie one I went to see, it's like a big freestanding circular speaker. I don't know if you've seen it. Amazing. It's about $3-4 grand. It sounds amazing. And like, I can understand why people have that. But then at the end, just as I was about to leave, the guy was like, oh, give me like 2 minutes of your time. And he took me down to this like basement room. They locked all the doors, like a sound hatch, and sat on a sofa.
You have such faith.
And it's like, I don't know what the product name was. This is the trouble. But it's like speakers under a TV, and they hold the TV like this, and then you turn it on, and it goes like that and pushes the TV up, and the speakers fall into place like that.
Oh, like a little cinema experience.
Cinema with surround sound, and I'm sure someone said the total package for that one was like 6 figures.
Yeah.
But my God, what an experience. It's one of those things, right, where if I had like Tony Stark money,
yeah.
Oh my God, I would have that little room in my house.
Oh, I know.
Just to watch films.
When I've like listened to like prime audio setups that are like high 5 figures, like I've been like, well, this has ruined me.
Yeah.
And now it's over. Like you feel it in your soul. Like I've always been one of those people that's like, okay, you do get to a plateau for me, just because I'm not like an audio person. I'm sure there are people that can pick up far more difference, but like once you get to like, oh, this one's 70 grand, this one now is 100 grand. That's where I stop hearing the difference. I'm just like, they're both brilliant, and if you can tell the difference,
more power to you.
Yeah, as long as you got the money for it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's sad.
But yeah, anyway, I just wanted to bring that one up because it's a new release at the minute. And I've got to say, I think the company, from what I've seen of them, is brilliant. I really hope that the launch of this means that in the whatever sales period happens to come next, we see some discounted prices on the old one, because I've wanted one for so long. I really think I might bite the bullet.
It's only 150 at the moment.
The old one?
Yeah, the old one. Didn't you say?
We've seen it in deals periods before. Not necessarily right this second.
Right.
But like Black Fridays and things like that. We've seen it about 159 before. So anyway, really cool and a cool company. Let's move along. What else have I got for you? Well, let's dive into the big one, I guess.
Yeah.
Android 16.
Yeah.
So
I only know the barest of details.
Yes. So the Android show, we've already mentioned Carl Pei came on at the Nothing show. the Android show to speak about the Nothing Phone 3. That was part of a larger experience which details some of the things that are going to be coming to Android 16 users over the coming months, effectively. So, first things first. There's a new look coming to Android 16. It's not that different to Material U, but it kind of just takes that a little bit further. You're going to get the same color palette styles. They do a lot with like 2 different shades of the same color or complementing colors. And there's going to be a lot more customization options. There is also a new springy animation. So you pull things and they kind of look like I kind of think they showed a video of them swiping a notification and it looks like the notification's trying to like cling on for dear life, and then you finally kick it off the edge and it goes.
So kind of like...
It's, instead of there being like no resistance, do you know what I mean? It's one of those...
I know what you mean.
I don't think it's going to make worlds of difference.
It reminds me of World of Goo.
What?
Did you ever play the game World of Goo?
Oh yeah, this is the face of someone in the know, yeah.
Okay. Never
No,
mind then.
no, I have no idea what you're on about.
Goo balls, and the goal is to get them to the pipe so they can go get sucked up there, and then up the pipe so they can go to another level. But you use them to build them, and they all have different properties. It's actually a Netflix game now. Actually, I think do I have it on my phone? I don't know. I might have cleaned my phone.
Okay.
Anyways, you gotta play it, man. It's good.
Okay.
It's like those bridge builder games.
Anyway.
But anyways, they go to the little pipe, and the pipe is always like sucking. So the closer you get, they'll like sway, you know. But if the pipe is near, they'll sway towards the pipe, and then the pipe gets them, and then they go kind of like the thing that you're talking about. If you play World of Goo, you'll get what I'm saying. You've missed having me around.
Oh god, yeah. It's been a nice. Do you know what? It's been a couple of weeks since we've done this podcast, and
It's been a few weeks.
I've been in a very zen state those few weeks. I wonder why.
Oh, hey now.
Anyway, the other part to this, beyond just design, is that Gemini is expanding massively. So Google TV, Android Auto, and Google built-in cars, Wear OS, and Android X headsets, including the long-awaited Samsung Google Qualcomm joint project, which is confirmed to be launching a first device before the end of the year. The trifecta. And you know what? Have you seen the render from...
No.
I've
been so out of the loop the past couple of days because I've just been catching up with stuff.
I have.
I was on vacation last week.
There you go. This is from it.
I did see that.
I think that's a really slick looking UI.
I think that's very much the Apple Vision Pro.
Yeah, I mean, it was always going to be quite similar, but I just think it looks nice. I think it looks really nice. I'm excited for what they can do.
I thought you meant like renders of the actual headset.
No, sorry, no.
Okay.
By all accounts, I'm sure it's going to look very similar to the Vision Pro. There is a guy I found on YouTube who claims to have, or is it YouTube or maybe it was a Reddit thread, who claims to have used it.
Sounds more like a Reddit thing.
I'm not really sure, but
Okay.
it's
Interesting.
yeah.
Do we know what the price point's going to be?
For the headset? No. And this is where I think it gets really interesting, because there's a distinct issue, which is Apple went first.
Yeah.
And Apple
Revealed their hand with the pricing.
I think Apple overpriced the Vision Pro. There, I said it. I think it's too expensive for the market. And the issue that we have now is that Samsung, Google, Qualcomm could come out and go, okay, well, the market by and large currently exists of the Apple Vision Pro, which is $3,500, or the Meta Quest 3, which is £350. We're going to put ourselves in the middle. So say, what, 1,500 quid?
Yeah.
And I think that makes perfect sense.
I think it'll be more like 2,000.
I think the trouble is that Samsung will not look at this market wholly. I think they'll look at Apple as... Because we see it all the time with big brands, right? Where, you know, we've talked about like Apple releasing a foldable phone and stuff, and it seems to have no, like, it doesn't seem to be aware of the suite of Chinese brands that are making fantastic devices. Seems only hell-bent on matching what Samsung can do. Certainly, that's the way I perceive it as someone looking at it. This is not from any official source.
We've talked about this before, right? And I think one of the aspects of the old Apple, where they were acing their branding, was they didn't acknowledge competition. And that has always been like a really key aspect. So when they have started to kind of like acknowledge competition, it's gone downhill, I think.
But I think they have to, because ultimately they will
I mean,
not...
obviously they acknowledge it, but like in their like keynotes and stuff, they never talk, they never say Samsung by name or anything like that. Yeah.
But they never talk about it, but you have to be aware of it. If if you're about to release a flagship foldable device and it's going to be, like the chunky old ones that I mean, I don't know if it is, right? The rumor mill, particularly around Apple, is kind of a bizarre thing anyway.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like they've looked at the market and gone, oh, wow, look at the Oppo, look at the Honor. These things are like sleek and slim and lovely. It looks like they've gone, well, Samsung makes something that's like 2 phones glued together. Let's just do that. And I think that...
100% they've done that, though, because they know a lot of their audience won't even touch a Chinese phone.
Well, and I think that the
as misguided as that is.
Well, yeah. But I think the opposite is true to a degree as well. I think we might find that when this device comes out, it's priced closer to the Vision Pro than many would hope. I hope that's not the case. I think if it's about £1,500, people will take a punt on it. I certainly would take a punt on an Android XR headset about 1,500 quid. Because the premise of using it for the productivity side that we saw demoed with the Vision Pro, and that, to be honest, I've never really seen anyone use it in that way. I don't know if it functions in that manner. I really don't know. I've never seen anyone do it.
You're talking about Android. You haven't seen people...
No, for the Vision Pro.
So,
because in the original keynote, they were like, so you take your MacBook and you put it there, and then the MacBook display pops up, and you can use the keyboard from it and stuff. I've never really seen anyone use it like that.
I've seen people use it like that, but...
Have you?
But... Caveat being, they've been like tech content creators.
Right.
So like, take it with a grain of salt.
Because I think that is amazing, but I'm not paying $3,500 on top of having a MacBook to get that experience. What I want is from the Android experience to be like, do this, maybe with a tablet, or I guess like I suppose it'd probably be like Chromebook compatibility. I'm not really sure. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know quite how it would work.
That's where you've lost me.
But certainly, if it could work with a tablet. Because I've got like an Android tablet that I mean, I would make that my flagship device if it worked.
OnePlus tablet?
Honor. I've got an Honor tablet. Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, while we're on the subject as well. Oh, hang on. Which one? No, hang on. Of Samsung foldable phones. Right, sorry. I need to just keep this all...
There's been so much phone news this week around Android.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Well, yeah. The Z Fold 7. So after I've just sat here and marginally slagged off Samsung's foldable phone game, they're about to turn it around, and possibly in a fantastic way. The Z Fold 7 is potentially, according to rumors, the thinnest foldable phone ever, with 1mm bezels on the internal display.
You what?
Yeah.
Sorry, what's the thinnest phone? Because, wait, okay, the thinnest folding phone ever, let me get this right, because I know it's changed recently. It's no longer the Honor.
No, it's the Oppo Find M5.
Right, because that they toppled the Honor's crown, didn't they? Because Oppo V3 was thinnest, and then like 2 weeks later, right? Am I recalling this correctly?
No, the Honor Magic V3, and then about a year later, the Oppo Find N5.
Oh, was it like a year?
Now,
Okay,
I think it was months anyway. It wasn't like...
I don't know, time
wasn't a matter
goes
of weeks. Yeah.
funny in this job.
But Samsung, it appears, is going to break the thinnest record, which in itself, I mean, it's not a big deal, right? It's literally not. We're talking about hairs of millimeters. It's so not an important thing. But the difference for Samsung, going from these big slabs to something much sleeker, much thinner, much more user-friendly, I think that is a massive statement of intent from the brand. And if...
There's someone that's acknowledging that there's other companies doing
damn
better.
right. And you know what? If it comes out in the format that we've heard rumored, I think this will be one of the best-selling phones in a long, long time. Because you look, the Honor Magic V3 has sold like hotcakes. And it's respectfully Honor. Most people don't.
It's completely
I always
accurate.
use the test of my mum, right? If my mum knows what it is, it's a mainstream brand. I told her I had an Honor phone. She had no clue what I was talking about, right?
Yeah.
That brand just doesn't even register in her attention.
No, I don't think it registers in the attention of like the general public. That's not.
Well, this is
a
it,
tech,
right?
No.
She's my general public litmus test, and
Yeah.
so at that point, it's just not there. But it's a fantastic phone, and it's sold massively on the merit of what it offered.
Yeah.
You take that and you put it on the Samsung brand name, game over. That could be massive.
Yeah.
The news story I've actually pinned here is the internal screen as well. So the bezels on the Z Fold 6 are 1.9 millimeters thick. That is apparently being almost halved, so it'll be a millimeter thick bezel on the internal display, which is, again, really impressive. Yeah. We've got a tape measure. It is small. And it just, like, the thing I don't get, and the thing I really like about this more than anything, we see so much incremental updates in tech, right? Every generation of a phone is very slightly different, and you have to look over a period of 5 or 10 years to see real massive change.
Yeah.
This, in the space of a generation, could go from being quite an unsightly outlier to the nicest foldable phone on the market.
Let's hope it does.
I really hope it does, because I think it would be massive for the foldable market if Samsung was back on top. I know there's a lot of brands who are doing some really interesting stuff, but they don't hold that multi-decade generational weight of Samsung.
Yeah.
And that is, unfortunately, something that is going to be the way for a while, because Samsung's I remember buying a Samsung. It was my first phone, the Jet S2000. And it's a lovely phone. And I remember it fondly. And because of that, if I don't know what to buy, I go back to Samsung as a first port of call.
Oh, really?
It's just the way it's ingrained
Mine
in
was
me.
Nokia.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, R.I.P.
I know.
I used to love the N95. That was the one I've talked about where it slid up, but then it slid the other way and there was a little media player in the top. You had like play, pause buttons.
No, I had a flip phone.
Oh.
It was. I remember very vividly. Yeah, never mind. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's a departure.
Is it not all departure, this podcast? While we're on the topic of Samsung, I've got two other things. We should talk about the S25 Edge.
Yeah.
I know we've talked about it pretty much to death, but it's here now and it's coming to the UK.
And it's $10.99.
I don't think that's awful.
No. The only thing, the price, not bad. What makes it bad for me is comparing it to the S25 Ultra.
Yeah.
Because now you can buy them for the same price, essentially.
But they're not the same phone, though, are they?
No, exactly. But then why, like...
Yeah, I get it. You're buying it for it to be slim,
Yeah, but, like,
right?
at this point, like, okay, it's sexy, but, like, I feel like if I were given the choice, buy an S25 Ultra at this price currently, or buy, that skinny little thing, I would pick the Ultra because it's still really the flagship in my opinion. And it's not like it's hideous. It's a good-looking phone still. It does feel like we're putting a premium on skinny.
I have...
It's gorgeous. Don't get me wrong. I just think the pricing is out of line with what they currently offer.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I have three main problems with it. And that's not... It's a lovely-looking device. I still don't really understand who wants one.
No.
I cannot wait for Jerry Rig Everything to get his hands on one of these phones because it's going to snap like a matchstick, surely. It's so thin. Like,
yeah.
I really don't understand that side of it. Battery life is going to be a concern. Whether or not, foldable phones have kind of got there. Not all battery lives are amazing, but you're paying £1,000 for a phone. You want it to have a good battery life. I don't know if it will. And my biggest ick with this phone is the camera. Because I've said this before.
I haven't even looked at the camera.
No, that's what I've just looked at here. The 200 megapixel with a 12 megapixel. And we heard about this basically at the start where it was rumored and then it was widely assumed that it was going to go 200 meg and a 50 meg.
Okay, I was like, what?
And it's come out with what I don't get, and the thing that baffles me about this is that Samsung puts so much weight and merit into its cameras, right? They have some fantastic computational photography. They do generally work pretty well. 200 megapixel main sensor, fair enough. That's a big deal. But if you're then pairing that with a 12 meg, so wide angle and ultra wide, I think is the, yeah. So you've got the ultra wide 12. So you're going to go, right, I can see everything and it's this. And then you're going to zoom in a little bit and you get a 200 megapixel, or worse still, you go, oh, I'm a little bit close for this. Let me go out to the ultra wide, and all of a sudden you've got like 12 pixels of an image instead of the 200 megapixel crisp, defined, lovely photograph. It doesn't sit right with me because I can't imagine a world where that is not a noticeable difference.
Yeah.
And actually, controversially,
Yeah.
I think I'd rather have seen a lower spec main camera. Like, I would rather have seen a 250s than a 212.
Yeah.
I think that is a better way all round of doing it.
I think you're right. The thing to me is, again, we've talked about this before, but it's like thinness. Are you getting more or less? Literally, you're getting less, but does the aesthetic make up for it? Because the way I see it, you look at the Ultra versus the Edge, and it feels like the Edge should be a step down from the Ultra, and it is. Not for the average person in terms of like power, right? I mean, I guess we haven't really seen it enough to know what the difference is there, but like it's supposedly as powerful as the Ultra, right? But you also, as you said, you're giving up some form of battery. We don't quite know what that life is actually looks like in reality yet. You're giving up battery, you're giving up screen real estate, you're giving up cameras, you're giving up the S Pen. So you're giving up a lot for this skinny little thing.
Yeah, no, you're right.
But like, and you still want to pay the same for it? Because it does feel like, I know it's impressive. I know it's impressive that you've put a lot of technology. No, I'm not talking
I'm
to you.
with
but
you.
Yeah, no, exactly. But yeah, you're right. I don't know who this is for. It feels like it should have been priced at like 800, and we should have kept the Ultra very clearly as like the big daddy, you know?
I think...
I hate the analogy I used there, but you know what I mean.
I just don't...
It's like the same thing with the iPhone 16e.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think the 16e makes more sense than the slim phones in general. The thing I think with this
now we're
is...
having an iPhone. Wait.
Yeah, the iPhone
Oh, no,
Air...
sorry. I know what my... Sorry.
Go on, you go.
No, sorry. I know what my analogy was there. It's like the MacBook Air, right? I always think of that in my head. If I go down the MacBook line, I go, in terms of power, Air, MacBook, average, you know, and then MacBook Pro. So I always thought the middle one, which is the plain old MacBook, then you go up and you get the Pro, or you go down and you get the Air, because Air automatically makes me think light version, which yes, it is the light version, but it is still a very powerful computer. Like it doesn't lack that. But in my head, I think, no, that's the light version.
Well,
You know?
yeah, I mean, that was the whole thing with the MacBook Air M1, wasn't it? When that first got released, they didn't really, it was so powerful that people were buying them instead of the Pros.
Yeah.
I am one of those people. I bought an M1 MacBook Air instead of an M1 MacBook Pro.
Unless you're a heavy-duty creative.
It didn't make any difference.
Yeah.
They ran pretty much identically,
absolutely.
apart from at the very extreme end. And realistically, if you're pushing it to the very extreme end, you shouldn't be looking at an Air anyway. And it was like 400 quid cheaper, and it didn't have a fan. I was working doing like music production at the time, so it didn't have a fan,
Yikes.
which meant that on hot days, where the fan would normally kick in to cool things down, they routed some coolness or something so that it didn't have to have a fan.
Oh, was it fine?
So it was oh my god, yeah, it was so good.
Oh, this was a plus. I thought you were going to be like,
no.
overheated.
It was silent, so you could record on like even on hot days, and it wasn't. Anyway, yeah. Which is like a pet peeve.
You know.
Anyway.
Mine likes to breathe.
Yeah, yours sounds like a helicopter taking off. It's
need a new
bold.
laptop so badly.
While we're on the subject of Samsung's design, I am very happy. The Samsung Galaxy Watch 8 has had a couple of renders leaked, and it looks as though it's taking the squircle design from the Galaxy Watch Ultra. And I am thrilled by this because apparently in a very small minority, I think that is the best looking smartwatch out there.
The squircle?
The squircle. Squircle's a thing. I'm having that. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
So
I
there
just
are...
was taken aback. Yeah, I don't like a circular smartwatch, but you can guess why.
But it's obviously a circle dial with a sort of squircle case. So squared circle case. Yeah. I just love it. I've always said this. I think that the Samsung Galaxy Watch Ultra is the best looking smartwatch out there. And offering that on cheaper alternatives, great. I think that's going to be really good for the user. I also think it brings a little bit of continuity in the range, which is really nice. We're said to have the Galaxy Watch 8 and an 8 Classic. Classic has the rotating bezel. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they do that on the new case shape. But by and large, I think this is a win-win-win-win-win. I'm really happy. No sign of a Watch Ultra 2, which is interesting. There was some umming and ahhing about this because obviously the Apple Watch Ultra has had a bit of a strange cadence so far where it launched and then 12 months later it launched the 2, but then it hasn't launched a 3 at any point. It started off with a 1-year cadence and now it looks like it's going to be 2, maybe more. We're not really sure.
That's I think I prefer that.
Oh yeah, same. And Samsung's adopted that right off the bat as well.
Yeah.
I think it's.
I don't think Apple should have released the 2 when they did.
It felt odd, didn't it?
Yeah.
It felt odd, but it's one of those things where at that point, someone's spent. In the case of Apple, the best part of £1,000. For Samsung, it's still what, 600 quid. It's not an insignificant amount of money by any stretch of the imagination. You don't want to then look in 12 months' time and go, oh, I have to upgrade this now because there's something new and I want the latest tech.
Yeah.
That's all right. That's a bad mindset to start with, but
no, but it's accurate.
But
it's truthful.
It's people don't want that, and I think these brands are starting to realize that they can be more luxurious if they don't update things all the time.
Well, also that we're kind of, it feels rather stagnant, not in terms of technology advancing, but in terms of what you can provide a consumer that consumers are going to understand.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a lot of updates that get people like us excited because we're nerds. But to the average consumer, it no longer does feel like seeing, oh, the iPhone 5 is released. That's new and different.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like that anymore, obviously. We've talked about this. But yeah, you just are running out of space. I want to feel wowed when I see a new product, not, oh, it can, now also time my wild swimming, knows if I'm in fresh water or salt water.
Yeah.
Actually.
This was the thing with the Apple Watch Series 10, right? It was, anniversary year for the brand. Everyone expected something really big. And what did we get? Like black finish and a slimmer case. It was.
I am still on a 5 and she is still.
I tell you what, as well, when we're talking about innovation and stagnation in smartwatches, I find it really interesting covering traditional watches as well. There's so many bits of innovation happening across that side of the market, which will one day, I think. So there's 2 in particular that I'm thinking of. There's the Tissot PR100C was released earlier this year, I think. Yeah, must have been this year. With a new kind of crystal, which takes in solar. We've talked about it before.
We've talked about the cool.
But then there's also, last year, there was a Panerai, fantastic watch, first of its kind to generate an electrical current from a mechanical watch movement. So it's got a little circuit in it, generates movement off the rotor, and that powers a light in the indices for people who are underwater for 3 days at a time, is the theory. And at the time I said to him, this is all well and cool in a watch, being able to do it. But the real application where this could be life-changing is when you take that and you put it into a smartwatch. Because if you can bring that size down and make it small enough, what you could then end up with is a smartwatch that has mechanical elements on the back that powers it and a solar crystal on the front that powers it from the sun. And before you know it, the frankly abysmal battery life of most popular smartwatches is gone, and you've got almost perpetual smartwatch. That I think that is absolutely fantastic, and it's not as far away as you'd think.
I've got the silliest question for you.
Cool.
Okay, so when you say the rotor, do you mean the watches that, for a while, that watch that powered itself just by your wrist movement? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so as you move your wrist, there's a rotor on the back of the watch, and that spins round. It's weighted,
right,
so
and that's the thing that generates the power to turn the watch.
So that turns a spring.
Right.
It holds a spring tighter and tighter, and then that spring very slowly lets out its energy, and that's what turns things.
Okay.
And in this case, that spring helped to push
generated
power.
Electricity.
Yeah.
Okay.
So magnificent, fantastic bit of engineering. I really, really loved it. And it's one of those things where I'm like, I think I said at the time, I'm pretty certain in 20 years' time, this will be smartwatch tech. And I'll stand there and I'll say, I was there when this was first done in this watch.
I do think, while that is entirely obvious to you, Do you think that smartwatches are going to want to adopt something that's so traditional, even if it is like...
Interesting. I think, yeah, I do, basically. I think there will at least be some smartwatch makers who go, if we can make battery life better by doing this, let's do it.
Yeah. I think they'll dress it up in some sexy way.
Of course they will.
Because I don't think people are going to be like, oh, so we're getting like a Dickensian addition to the back of our
I honestly, I would pay quite good money for a mechanical smartwatch, and I know that's a ridiculous thing to say.
No. I thought we have seen a mechanical.
We've seen, yeah, there is one. The Sequent is the one I can think of, which is interesting, and certainly there's something in that as well. But I mean, like, you could like your Apple Watch, but with a mechanical rotor in the back and a solar thing in the front. That means that it doesn't need charging for like 4 months. Yeah. If you wear it every day. Yeah. Amazing.
I'd love that.
Let's talk Google. And there's a really interesting story that I've picked up this week, which is battery health indication. So, you know, where it says your battery is 80% of the capacity it should be. Yeah. That was a feature which was available on a wide range of Pixel devices. In the latest Android update, they seem to have taken it away.
And, that's sneaky.
And as part of an instant... So it was logged on the instant log where they sort of said, you know, users said, oh, this feature's disappeared from my older devices. And they've basically got back in touch and said it won't be available on devices older than the Pixel 8a, which is the 8a and the Pixel 9 series at the moment. But the biggest thing...
On devices older?
Yes. Well, the biggest issue there is the Pixel...
Would you need it?
The Pixel 8 and the Pixel 8 Pro are both excluded on that as they're older than the Pixel 8a. And those devices are the first ones that came out with 7 years of updates to their package.
No.
So we're less than 2 years into that.
But when they said 7 years of updates, they didn't mean...
No.
They didn't mean hardware updates.
No.
They meant software updating.
Yeah. Well, this is a software thing, right? It's just...
Right, but now they've taken away the thing. So I guess...
I just think it's interesting that on a device that was sold primarily on how long it was going to be kept up to date, it's quite a bold strategy to then not only stop giving features so soon. I mean, I think every phone I've ever tested gets 2 years of software updates included. Yeah. I don't think I can remember one that has less than that.
Apple's longer too, but they're just not as yelly about it. But anyways, that's a different topic. What's interesting here for Google is that software gets exponentially more intensive. So this makes sense that they would take away the battery health because you're probably like ruining your battery a little bit with the more intense upgrades you get. Yeah. Like it just comes a case where, you know, sometimes your phone can't run things because we need better technology to run what we're currently making.
Yeah, like, I totally get the point, and I really do.
So
but
I think they're now realizing.
I think the trouble is that people had this feature on their phones for quite a while. You know, it's been around on a generation or two of Android, and it's now just been taken away, and it's caused a lot of bad blood on forums and things like that. So
it feels more strategic rather than laziness, though, too. It doesn't feel like they just chose, like, I would get both sides of it where they're like, oh, hey, they're not supporting this feature anymore. No, I think they've taken that away because they are trying to muddy the waters a little bit on how good those 7-year updates actually are. Especially when they're bad for your phone.
It's such a strange one. It really is a strange one. But I just think given the proximity to when those handsets were released, I just think it's such a strange call.
It's suspicious.
It's certainly caused some real bad blood among loyal Pixel enthusiasts, which is a shame because they probably deserved a bit better than that, I think.
Yeah, that's something you saw. I mean, yeah, it's difficult because you could also get done for like false marketing and stuff.
Yeah.
So they do have to follow up. But if they're not doing it in good faith, that's not right.
I don't think anyone expected the 7 years of updates to be like 7 years of every single update.
No. I expect security updates.
Well, it's meant to be feature updates as well, but I don't think anyone's thinking you're going to get every flagship new feature for 7 years.
No, hopefully not.
I just also don't think anyone expected them to take away features that were already there.
Yes.
So, interesting. One, we'll certainly be keeping an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're taking away the feature, though, because they're going to keep releasing features for the phone, and they're going to hope everyone forgets this fiasco, and at the same time can't check the health of their phone battery, and they'll see it going down. More power intensive these software updates get. Anyways, sorry.
Sorry.
That was a juicy one. Thank you.
Yeah. Right. I've got two more slightly lighter bits of news. Lumix, good camera brand. They have added 2 new cameras to their portfolio. How do I put this? They are not the most juicy of updates. We've got the S1 Mark II and the S1 2E. S1 Mark II features a 24.1 megapixel partially stacked sensor for extra fast operation, up to 70 frames per second burst mode in electronic shutter, various fantastic video goodness. Interestingly, a new urban sports autofocus mode as well. So
Urban sports
autofocus mode for parkour, street dance, BMX, stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Why is that different from?
Don't ask me, but they look pretty cool. I think the E is interesting model. It doesn't have the stack sensor. Feels like an attempt to make something a little bit more affordable. There's not a lot in it, so it's not gonna be life-changingly. What I think is perhaps more exciting than any of that is they're updating the Lumix Flow app. And I'm really excited for that because it brings things like the iPad compatibility, which we've talked about before.
Yeah.
It also adds support for what they call the director monitor function. So you can add a second monitor availability for someone who's directing. There's all sorts of other little bits and pieces like battery indication showing up on those monitors as well. But I think that's really quite cool and a good update for an app that they clearly want to put a lot of stock into.
Yeah.
You know, it's nice to see that. I think it seems like it's going to be good. It's like gearing up to be really good. It's just got to kind of get there now.
I'm excited for the app. I just can't. I mean, we've got an S5 too at the moment, and I don't believe as of right now that the Lumix Flow app supports that model.
Really?
I don't think so. I haven't checked recently. It's probably about time for me to check again, but I've checked periodically since it's been coming out. And because, I'm really excited for that app. If it's good, which camera apps rarely are all that good, so I do take it with a grain of salt, but if it is everything they promise, absolutely. What does Reddit say?
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. It's available on the S9.
Yeah, it's not on the S5 at the moment.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wish I'd known that. I'd have asked them while I was there.
I know they're going to add compatibility. They just haven't because it's still a bit of an elderly camera in terms of camera lives. But yeah, I'm excited for that.
Anyway, the one other thing that I want to talk about, and you might have a little bit more knowledge of this than I do, but it's really exciting to me. The DJI Mavic 4 Pro has launched. And have you seen this thing?
I've seen it on a few different, I haven't had the chance to go hands-on with it.
No, or me. But 3
Nikita had one,
Hasselblad... Yeah.
Yeah.
3 Hasselblad sensors in there. So it's... Sorry.
3
Hasselblad tuned cameras. Got a micro 4/3 sensor on the main wide angle. Then there's 2 slightly smaller sensors for different telephoto lengths. It looks amazing. I want to say it's a 51-minute flight time.
What?
Which is bonkers.
That's insanity. Wait, and this is a prosumer kind of...
Yeah, it's about £1,800
okay.
price point. So it's a heavy-duty bit of kit, but my goodness, does this thing look good.
But it's still aimed at consumers, That's interesting. That is expensive. That's exciting, then.
I have said
want a drone.
I want a drone so much. I actually, I don't even know if I want one. I just want to have a go with one. I'm trying to sort of just get one borrowed from a friend or something. I just want to have a go with them.
Yeah.
They look amazing. And I mean, the tech that goes into them they've got anti-collision software and stuff like that is just fantastic. Yeah. But this one, I mean...
That's super.
Jesus, if you want to make some really good-looking aerial footage, I think this might be the guy. And if you see I wonder if Matt has got a photo of the remote it comes with. Got like a pop-up remote.
Oh. Does it attach to your phone?
No. Built-in display, 7-inch, I think it said.
Oh, excellent.
I'm going to have to double-check that now. There you go.
Oh.
So it like pops up like that. Oh, that's amazing.
Oh, that's
It looks like something out of Call of Duty. Like, That's fantastic.
That's pretty slick.
I would feel so cool using that.
Yeah.
Crikey! The new controller. How much do you think that costs? Did you see that?
No, I can't read that.
How much do you think that controller costs?
Sorry, it doesn't come bundled?
I think there is a bundle, but how much do you think it costs separately?
So if the drone itself on its own is 1,800,
I think, yeah.
that's not including the controller.
Yeah.
The controller, I'm gonna guess like 600.
£879.
Oh, okay.
That's crikey. That is a bold, but it does look cool.
Yeah.
It does look cool. The other thing it does, and I don't know, it does the the around the world shot, the really wide field of view shots, 360 stuff. Anyway, I think it looks really cool. I can't really say much more than that, but it's nice to see. That is an absolute beast and very cool launch in the world of drones. And I think that's everything I've got for you today.
Amazing.
That is This Week in Tech.
If you haven't already, hit that like, subscribe, whatever methods of appreciation are on your current mode of listening. So yeah, and leave us a comment. Let us know how you did. I don't know. I'm rambling.
We'll see you next